What's up, everybody? And we are back with another episode of Nature is Underrated. Your co-host Hassan Haidar is here with my man Ryan George. We are joined today by a guest. She is a chiropractor and health coach and a friend of the podcast. Emma Whelpton joins us today.
What's up? What's up?
Thank you so much for joining us. If it sounds a little bit awkward, it's because we're doing another take. So it's not going to sound as smooth, or maybe it could sound a little bit smoother. But anyways, we're here now. We had some great coffee. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. If you come on the podcast, you're going to get some of that dope coffee. But yeah, we did the new comp today, which we're going to get into. But let's get into a little bit more of your background, your journey, how you got to where you are today, all that good stuff.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm a chiropractor, yoga instructor. I feel weird sometimes saying that I am a yoga instructor because I do teach yoga, but I don't identify necessarily as a yoga teacher. I'm more so, that's what I'm certified in, but it's more of like a movement teacher, mobility, functional movement, yoga for the relaxation in the nervous system. But yeah, you were asking earlier how I got into the health and wellness field and how I became who I am. And I was saying earlier that I really feel in a way that I was born into the health and wellness field because I was raised from a very young age in a household that valued health, wellness.
Healthy?
No, because I was never addicted to sugar. I was never, actually, I shouldn't say that. As a child, we all have those, like, I had Dunkaroos and like, of course, right? Like,
I remember that.
Fruit roll-ups.
Who has Dunkaroos? Give me some Dunkaroos.
But I remember in high school when I started to like go out and parties and everybody would go and want fast food after. That was never, and still to this day, is never something I ever crave. It was never something that I was rewarded as a child with, like, oh, you did so good. We're going to treat you to McDonald's tonight, or we get to go out and get something from a fast food. And that was never used as a reward for me. So that on a psychological level plays a role, but then I just don't crave that. So I don't think that I ever had that rebellion phase. We had sweets. Like, my dad took us out to Dairy Queen, but fast food was never a meal for us. It was never really eaten in my childhood, and dinner was always had at home as a family, a home cooked, healthy meal by my mom. And so I was just raised in a way that put health first. And I was always an athlete and always raised in a way that I stayed very active. And looking back, I realized that other people didn't have that awareness or that way of life. And when I had that realization, I realized that there's a huge percentage of our population that is missing out on how powerful they are as just a human being and how much they have control over their health, and the choices that they make every day that they're maybe not even conscious of play a role in their life. And you maybe won't see that effect of your choice now, but you will in 60 years. Yeah. And so every choice that we make now makes a huge impact in our lives. So anyways, we got a little off topic there, but my mom was a nurse, but with a very holistic mindset.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And as a young teenager, 15, 16, I had my journey through the medical system that time and time again let me down. I felt like nobody listened to me. Nobody really saw me, heard me, understood me, respected me as a patient, and nobody validated my symptoms. And I was prescribed birth control medication for something that it wasn't going to fix. And it was a Band-Aid. And then later on in life, realizing that this has so many detrimental effects to my health that nobody ever informed me of. And I've been taking this for years blindly without being educated by the medical profession. Again, they let me down. I was doing something to my body that I didn't create an informed consent for. And I was taking it for something that I was misled. It wasn't fixing anything. It was a Band-Aid. And so then fast forward my first 3 months at chiropractic school, I was in a biochemistry class and my professor was talking to us about birth control and how it was affecting our body and depleting B vitamins. And B vitamins are used in over like 800 different processes in the body and cleansing and clearing and detoxing. And it's used in so many things. And all these years I've been deficient because I hadn't been supplementing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Nobody told me. I was like 15 when I was prescribed and I was taking it for whatever and for however many years. Within the first 3 months of chiro school, learning all this information, my mind was blown and I stopped. I was like, done. I don't need this. Why am I taking this? And again, it was one of those moments in my life where I had another like aha awakening moment where I realized like there is so much in our lives that is common and sort of like normal in society, but it's not right.
Yeah.
It's not the truth. It's not beneficial when and maybe we can encourage people to critically think about and critically health from a natural perspective and from a holistic perspective to teach people. As a doctor, you're a teacher.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm not healing anybody. I'm not, I'm teaching. I hope to be teaching people how they can take their health into their own hands because we are nature and nature does its own thing and it has its own rhythms and it has its own process. And so it's just about teaching people that and how they can live in alignment with that to be a healthier individual.
Question about birth control. Like for anyone listening, what were some of the things that it was doing to you that you didn't realize it was doing to you until after you got off of it? For someone listening.
Yeah, depleting B vitamins. We need Miranda, the period lab on here. My girl Miranda. Yeah. Depleting B vitamins was a big one for me and realizing the huge catastrophic effect that had systemically on my body.
Were you feeling any physical symptoms that were like,
no,
okay,
no, because there's so many people that are walking around that don't, that's a great question actually. Cause maybe I was feeling
that's what I mean.
That I didn't correlate cause you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Maybe those symptoms, maybe those headaches that I had chronically for years were because of a depletion in my B vitamins.
Did those stop after you stopped?
Yeah.
So that's one of those things I'm saying, like once you got off of it, what are some of the things?
Absolutely. And the big thing for me is the increase in risk of stroke.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
I
didn't even know that was a side effect.
What's the increase in risk for?
There's just simply an increase of risk. There's so many other like biometrics that would play into like to quantify what your risk is compared to my risk and how we eat or, nutrition
level.
Totally. Yeah. So many other factors. But at the end of the day, you are putting yourself at an increased risk. And nobody told me that.
Of course not.
Well, obviously.
It was an easy fix.
Yeah.
It was easy prescription to hand me and get me out of the office to go to the next patient.
Yeah.
Sorry, medical system.
No, well, but at 15 too, like that's insane. Because you're a 15-year-old, you don't know any better. You trust your doctor because it's your doctor.
My journey in life. Yeah. There's a lot of women that are wanting to get pregnant and they're 30 and they've been on it for the last 15 years. And then that's a whole other bag of worms to have to get your system to recalibrate. They say that if you want to get pregnant, you should be off birth control for absolute minimum 1 year before trying to get pregnant because it takes that long for your body to start to recalibrate and function hormonally on its own naturally. Yeah. That was a big awakening moment for me. Something that was a like core memory, a pivotal moment, an aha experience that really lit a fire in me to go into the alternative side of health and healing rather than your traditional Western medicine field. That was a big moment where I said, because I always knew I wanted to help people in their health And you
Yeah.
can go a million different ways. But from a very early age, I realized that I didn't want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a typical doctor in the medical field.
Okay, so that's like where the passion came from, I guess. Like
Yeah.
you had that experience and that lit a fire under you. What were the first steps into the holistic world that you would say you took and that kind of made you like open your eyes? Was it yoga? Was it breath work? Where did that journey start and how did it kind of slingshot you? Because you were a chiropractor. Chiropractor is kind of, what is chiropractor considered Western medicine? Like where did it
No, and
originate
so that's
from?
what I think. I think there's the biggest misunderstanding. I have this patient.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Bless his heart. He's like 72. He was seeing a physiotherapist for a year and a half for this lower back. It was really an SI, pelvic dysfunction. Seeing this physiotherapist for a year and a half. I know this physio. He's amazing. He's really great. But it wasn't an issue. He needed an adjustment at the end of the day.
Mhm.
His son is a head and neck surgeon, and his daughter is a family doctor, physician. And they were like, Dad, he was like, he's like, Dr. Whelpton, I didn't tell my kids that I've been coming to else out. One adjustment. This man thinks that I am like the most magical human on the face of the planet because one adjustment after a year and a half. His goal when I saw him as a new patient, his goal was to be able to go for walks that were longer than 20 minutes because he couldn't walk without pain. He
Wow.
limped into my office. He couldn't walk without pain. He was like, Emma, 3 years ago, I was playing pickleball. We like to go for walks. We like to travel in Florida. When we travel to Florida, we like to be active. And he's like, to be honest, I've realized that I'm 73. My age, it is what it is. And I have what I have. And just like my big lofty goal would just to be able to go for a walk with my wife for 20 minutes again.
Yeah.
This man just got back from a trip to Florida, pickleballing left, right,
Wow.
and center. Like, yeah. So he had said to me, he said, Emma, my kids don't understand. And when they said to me, Dad, you're walking like without a limp. And he was like, yeah, I went to a chiropractor. And they were like, huh? And he said to me, he said, Emma, I feel like chiropractors need to put out a big marketing like ploy to teach people what you do. Because most people don't understand what a chiropractor does. So yes, we are in the alternative medicine field. We're not, I wouldn't consider ourselves in Western medicine. And there's a lot of chiropractors that are in the research field that if it's not, that they're just a little bit more in the Western medicine thought process.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of chiropractic. And I also think that's where confusion falls within chiropractic because there's so many different ways to practice. And that goes across the board with anybody. Not every physio is going to practice the same. Not every dentist is going to practice the same. We all have our own perspectives, worldviews, philosophies, and life paths that have led us in care. One being the very basic physical anatomy, science-based, evidence-proven practice. Everybody at the end of the day has the same anatomy, right? We have the same bones, muscles for the most part, right? There's natural anomalies, but for that, at the end of the day, we're human beings and we all have the same structures within us. And so as a chiropractor, if something is stuck, misaligned, out of alignment, there's the physical healing component to an adjustment that at the end of the day, this man walked in with a limp and after a year and a half of no success with treatment, walked out, got off my table and walked out without a limp and is now pickleballing, traveling, hiking, like living the life that he didn't even think in his lofty goal was possible for him. So there's a very like almost superficial and anatomical benefit of chiropractic care. Just a skeletal, musculoskeletal. We are musculoskeletal specialists. Anything in your bone structure, your skeleton, your muscle, we are specialists in that. There is no reason to go to your medical doctor for that because at the end of the day, the way that they're trained, there is a time and a place for them and we love them and they play a huge healing role in our societies, but there's a time and place for that. At the end of the day, if you go to your medical doctor for a sprained ankle, a strained muscle, a concussion, a broken whatever, you're going to get a prescription because that is what they are trained in. You're going to get a muscle relaxant or a painkiller. Is that going to heal the tissue? No. So who heals the tissues? Who fixes the root problem of the musculoskeletal system? Chiropractors do a fucking fantastic job of that.
Okay.
Am I allowed to drop the F-bomb?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Feel free.
We do an amazing job of that. That's the superficial level of what a chiropractor does.
Mhm.
We don't take that Western medicine pathway of here's a prescription. So I would consider us in the alternative medicine practice in that other field of healing and health. The deeper layer to chiropractic care is that we are impacting your nervous system. Well, I would argue that there is no other profession that has a better understanding and ability to work with your nervous system than chiropractors, unless you're a neurosurgeon, a neurologist, right? But they're working in a different way and on a different level. As a chiropractor, I could close my eyes and adjust you in the most random way. Right adjustment, wrong adjustment, whether you needed that or whether you didn't need that adjustment. If I just adjusted you, I'm impacting your nervous system. System is dysregulated.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can press the reset button on the nervous system, and the nervous system then controls everything in the body, your thoughts, feelings, emotion, digestion, muscle contraction, everything. If we can press the reset button on your nervous system, then we have the potential secondary effect to help anything. Which is why a lot of people say, hey, I had all these digestive issues before I started getting adjusted. And now that I get adjusted, I have no digestive issues. I'm like, yeah, the nerves that come and supply your digestive, where do they originate from? Your spine. Your spine protects your spinal cord, your central nervous system, your peripheral nervous system. We're impacting those nerves and helping them fire properly and optimally. And so that with every adjustment, we see an increase in immune function. Why? Rest and digest. We're recalibrating the nervous system. You're increasing your parasympathetic nervous system state, therefore improving your body's ability to naturally function how it should without any blocks, obstacles. And because of that, we see an increase in cognitive function. We see a decrease in inflammation. We see an improvement of digestion. So as a chiropractor, there's a big disconnect. There's a big gap in understanding what we do and the potentials that there is there.
Where does this go for it?
No, I just think this is the information that people need to hear, right? Because when you hear chiropractic, like you don't really know. It's like, oh, they just crack your neck, right? That's what a lot of people think it is. You're going to like crack, like you crack your knuckles, you're just going to crack my back and I'm just going to go on with my day. But even me, like I saw a chiropractor since I was like 16 for my scoliosis and everything. And I was never explained like none of this. They never went in depth in explaining to me what's actually happening. It's just like, oh, your spine's a little crooked. We're going to try to straighten you up. And that was it. I didn't know. They're just like, do this, do that. And they just crack my neck and surface level. But I think people, if they understood how deep it actually goes and how much of an impact it actually has, it would be much more widely accepted and utilized. Yeah. Right. Because if you tell someone you're going to chiropractor, a lot of times they're like, why are you wasting your money?
But so that's interesting because that's your view and that's what's in you only know what you know. And that's your bubble of experience where, I forget as a chiropractor, I forget that there's that perspective too, because everybody that I see in my bubble are like, this changed my life. And so therefore I bring my kids and I've treated patients through their 3 pregnancies and, there is so much science and there's so much research behind what we do. I'm certified in prenatal chiropractic care, has been shown to decrease labor times for women by 50%. Like,
Oh yeah.
who would not get adjusted in their pregnancy if they were understanding of this? But
Right.
it is a very vulnerable thing, especially getting your neck adjusted. Physical touch, trusting somebody with your physical body is a vulnerable thing to do. So it's just simply getting in the door first before they're like, okay, well, now I trust you with my pregnant body. That's a whole deeper layer of intimacy and vulnerability and connection there to have with your chiropractor. Little side note there. But yeah, there is that perspective, but there's also a huge percentage of people that are fully aware that this is so powerful and so helpful.
So follow up, if people aren't seeing the results that you're talking about and the changes to their body and their physiology and all these deeper conditions, like if they're not responding it to the way in which you're talking about it, should they find a new chiropractor? Because I never really felt like mine was doing anything. I went because I needed to go so many times a week, whatever. But my x-rays and things never really showed improvements. There was never really like a quantitative way to be like, well,
it's working,
right? And I found going to a massage therapist and getting deep tissue massages was actually more beneficial to me than the chiropractic, because I could feel that working and releasing tension. And even like I had a 3rd-degree sprain. Again, general practitioner, put this boot on for 6 months. No rehabilitation, no nothing. And I was just like, and then when I went to my massage therapist, she's like, you have so much scar tissue I need to break down right now. And only after that I feel like I regained full mobility in my ankle and all these things, because again, general practitioner,
they're not trained in that.
Put a boot on it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Ryan, if you came to me, I would have had you out of that boot in half the time.
Right.
I had a patient recently he had a hip replacement and he came to see me for post-surgery rehabilitation, and he saw his surgeon at the 3-month follow-up, and then you have a 6-month follow-up. And this guy, his surgeon said, I don't need to see you. I don't know what you've been doing, but I don't need to see you at your 6-month follow-up. So yeah, your body, nature is underrated. Your body is incredibly intelligent.
Yes.
We hold natural intelligence in our body. Will your body heal itself to its utmost ability? Yes. Is there loopholes? Does your body like to take the path of least resistance? It gets a little sluggish after a while. We talk about, that's a whole other story, but there is definitely things that you can do to upregulate your healing and help you heal faster. But I want to loop back. What was the question that you had said before? Okay, so if somebody is getting adjusted and they're not noticing improvement, like, is this a bad chiropractor? Should I find another chiropractor? Is this not working for me? Yes and no. Here's the thing. And this is why I've created the program that I've created online for women with low back pain, because for me, want to see them every 3 weeks, because if you're coming back to me for the same problem over and over and over again, fuck me, because I'm not doing my job.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, there's a deeper issue. Like my patient, the 73-year-old man, he straight up had a mechanical dysfunction of his pelvis. There was nothing that was going to help him other than that adjustment. We adjusted him. He's better. He's fine. He comes to see me now every 5 weeks because he's like, I just want to make sure that I'm still good. Yeah. He's like, I started to go a little bit. I'm like, oh, we're getting a little tight. But at the end of the day, I'm giving him exercises to do at home to ensure that this doesn't happen again. And if it does, he's like, cool, I'm not going to sweat. I'm going to go get adjusted. So I'm there for him when he needs me. This idea and this sort of theory and this myth of people saying like, oh, once you go to a chiropractor, you always have to keep going. My argument to that is people come back to me because they like how they feel after. I don't tell them to come back. They're like, I'm going to come back to you in like 2 weeks because I love how I feel after an adjustment. Cool. Mm-hmm. And if you're just doing a wellness adjustment every month, love that. Optimal. We are optimizing your system every month as a wellness adjustment. Cool. But if you're somebody that's coming in for low back pain and you're coming in to get adjusted every 2 weeks, I don't like that because it's telling me that I'm not doing my job. And if you need to continuously get adjusted for a pain point, for a problem area, for chronic pain, there is a deeper issue. Your lower back pain is not because you need an adjustment. Here's the thing. I low-key specialize in lower backs. If you come to my practice in the clinic, lower backs is the thing that I adjust the least. You don't need your lower back adjusted.
Yeah.
Most people don't. There's a deeper issue. We always want to find the root cause, right? We need to fix that root cause. Otherwise, it continues to happen perpetually. That's where the holistic aspect comes in. That's where the movement, the functional mobility, the rehab, nobody's lower back pain. I have to be careful what I'm saying here. That's not true. That's an extreme. Most people's chronic, achy lower back pain isn't from their lower back. It's a lack of hip mobility. It's a lack of functional mobility in their spine. It's a lack of stability in their deep core. It's a lack of diaphragmatic activation. Your diaphragm connects to your lumbar spine. It's QL tightness. It's pelvic floor dysfunction. It's hamstring dysfunction, weakness, tightness, hip flexors. My God, everybody.
Yeah.
Right? When I say I run a 12-week program for women with low back pain,
Right.
there's a handful of other things that we need to fix and optimize before we even get there. Do we need to have proper mobility in our lumbar spine? Yeah, absolutely. Do we need to have stability in our lumbar spine? Totally. But in order for that to happen, X, Y, and Z needs to happen first. And so if you're somebody that's always getting adjusted in your neck because of whatever issue that you're chronically having, or you have lower back pain that's always there and you're chronically needing that adjustment and chronically in achiness, pain in your lower back, well, then I would say that maybe your chiropractor's missing out on giving you the next steps. The adjustment is maybe there to, decrease pain, temporarily release some tissue, help you get started, but it's not the full story, which is why in my first year of practice, I was getting frustrated. I'm like, I am not helping my patients to my fullest capability. And I don't have the time in the clinic to give everybody the full story.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'd be booking you for a 3-hour appointment with me and it's going to cost you about $1,000 for one visit for 3 hours. Is that doable? Not really. I don't want to spend 3 hours with one patient either. You know what I mean?
Right. No, of course.
So I'm like, how do we optimize people's healing? And so that's when I adjust people in the clinic. And then that next level happens in the online space, because then you have the tools at home. Also, too, think of the last time you went to a doctor. They tell you all this information and you go home and you're like, I have no fucking clue what they told me.
Yeah. 100%.
I don't remember. I remember a small percentage, especially as a kid, like white coat syndrome. You get nervous. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of new information. You're only retaining so much. And that's, again, side note, the beauty of creating something online that you can take it home. You always have that resource at your fingertips. And again, it's my passion for helping people take their health into their own hands.
Yeah.
So that was your answer plus some.
No, it's great. Cause and I think that's using social media and online platforms, you are able to reach a broader audience. And even just the other day, my friend's like, I hurt my low back. What do I do? And I'm like,
holla at your girl.
I immediately sent him here videos. I'm like, it's probably not your low back. Here's why. And I gave him the list of all because I had a low back injury this March.
Yeah.
And you treated me for it. And it was not my low back at all. It was, there was a spasm in there because it was trying to protect me, but it was most likely, we talked about it earlier, my tight hip flexors and my lack of mobility in my hamstrings and glutes. I just had a weak posterior chain. So it wasn't the low back at all. It was just something else that led to that.
Dysfunctional hip flexors.
Exactly. And now I've been focusing on, thanks to your videos and your advice, my hip flexor mobility, strength and conditioning, and functional strength and conditioning, instead of just lifting heavy to lift heavy and then not doing all the other things that come with that, right? So now that I strictly focus on the functional mobility aspect of things because it's made a tremendous difference. I feel like a different human being now.
And a great example of that is we all know that guy that can deadlift 600 pounds and he's huge, but you ask him to put his hands over his head, he ain't going there.
Yeah.
He has no functional mobility. And he's also that guy, whoever's that guy is, I'm sorry, we love you. You're just got the short end of this stick. But we know that person who is from the outside in shape, muscular, fit. They sneeze and they throw out their back.
Yeah.
Why? The functional, you have little receptors in your spine that tell your brain where you are in time and space. You get comfortable in this range of motion and your body's like, cool, you know what? We get this range of motion in our spine. We understand it. We're aware of it. We feel safe here. You sneeze and you have a jerk motion that takes you out of that comfort zone and your nervous system reads that and goes, whoo, shit, we're in a space that we don't know well. We haven't been here in a long time and we're in a range of motion that feels unsafe to us. And therefore, our one and only job in the spine and in the muscles surrounding the spine is to protect essentially our life, which is our spinal cord, our nervous system. Without that, we cease to exist. So your body recognizes that as vulnerability, as danger. And so what does it do? What does it do? Everything tightens. And that's when somebody's like, oh, I put out my back, I'm on the floor and I can't move, but I can deadlift 600 pounds and I can squat 7 men on my back at one time. And you know what I mean? I drink protein shakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's like, great, but the functionality isn't there. Yeah. And so your risk of injury is pretty big.
And that's what was happening to me. Like I was bending over to like pick up my camera bag and like my back would tweak. And I'm like, this is weird. Like I could lift heavy. I do all the things, but I wasn't doing the functional mobility stuff. And that's most likely what led to.
And because you have the scoliosis, you're somebody who maybe that is a little bit more important for. Your risk of injury because you have an innate imbalance in your spine. There's a little bit higher risk of injury, imbalance, dysfunction there. So that functional mobility and that training is maybe a little bit more important for you than it would be. Like Hassan could probably get away with a little bit less. Yeah. You know?
Well, it just took me 35 years to figure that out. But
but it's true though. It's the most important thing. At the end of the day, I don't care to be. I was thinking about it the other day and I'm like, you know, I don't take pictures of myself as like this fit girl or
that's not the image you have of yourself.
That's not the image that I have of myself. I was looking at inspiration the other day and I'm like, you know, I don't post pictures of me and my, you know, when I feel jacked. And because at the end of the day, that's doesn't matter to me. I don't work out to that bring a sense of confidence to me and badassery. I'm like, fuck yeah, I feel good. But at the end of the day, that's not my why behind it. My why has nothing to do with appearance. And it's all about, truthfully, at the end of the day, I want to be 60 and being able to get in a deep squat still. And I want to be 73 on the floor, mobile with my grandkids if that happens for me one day. It's not about working out to lift heavy weights, and it's not about working out to look a certain way. At this point in my life, it is all about functionality, which isn't sexy. And it's kind of frustrating because people are like, cool, Emma, you talk about like, you've got this program and it's all about building like functional strength and range of motion and mobility, but like whatever, I want to lift heavy and I want to have muscle and I want to look good. And I'm like, you want to look good now in your 30s, but it's not going to last.
Yeah.
What will last is the things that the functional things. And it's hard for our brains to appreciate that and therefore make it our why and make it a motivating factor because our logic brain, our left side of our brain, it has a hard time seeing that end result when we're 70. It wants to see that result now. And by lifting really heavy weight and getting that pump in our muscles, we see that, or we see the more instant gratification and that benefit. And we're like, yeah, that is sexy and that feels good. And if I were doing that on social media, way more people are like, I want to lose weight now. I want to see that now. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't care about having you lose weight. I don't care about you having a six pack. I care about your hip mobility, which on Instagram, it doesn't look sexy. Well, so not as many people care about it. Yeah. You know, you don't get to flex your hip flexor strength in the mirror and post it and be like, look at how good I look today. Right? You know, like, so.
Look how deep this squat is.
It's a tricky thing to to help. I'm trying to figure out how I can motivate people to care about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky thing, right? Because Hassan and I talk about this all the time. Like, we were both heavy into the gym bro culture, like
heavy lifting, pounding weights.
You know, early 20s, like you're just like lifting to look a certain way. I just want to look a certain way. And I used to have a lot more muscle mass. I used to weigh almost like 20 pounds more, and I was just like a solid shit brick. I was just fucking a brick. I looked like a brick, but it was like I had no mobility. Like I had no
sneeze and you put your back out, baby. Yeah, it's not exactly. That's the least sexy.
Because that's not part of the culture. It's like, how ripped can you get?
How can you look good?
Exactly.
It's not really how you can feel.
Compress my spine and work on my shoulder mobility. I'm using like the clubs now to like work on full range of motion, and they're just throwing weights.
And it's not as fun. Mobility work is not as fun.
No, it doesn't.
Let's be real with it.
I'm just standing there like, I mean, should I just do this at home?
Yeah.
Like, do I need to be here?
Should I just excuse myself?
Yeah, right. Like, I feel like so out of place now because like I used to be that person, and now I'm like taking the complete opposite approach, and it's still like hard for me to.
You're investing into your future though. Yeah. And the thing is that now it's like people, you know, you look at them and go, oh man, like I you know, but guess what? That's going to flip when you're 70 and you're the most mobile and functional person. They're going to go, fuck, what was he doing? And you're like, sorry, you can't have what I have overnight. This shit started when I was 30.
Yeah. Right.
And they go, damn, I missed out.
Yeah,
you're like,
how do you market that?
How do you, when you find it, let me know.
Because like,
how do you market that?
That's exactly, you want to be functional and like able to do, like I went to a sweat lodge with Adam and some people from other ship, and our facilitator, she's well into her 60s, maybe 70s. And, you know, we're going into this little hut and she's carrying 40-pound rocks on a pitchfork, bent over, like folded in half, like it's nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sure if I did that, I would have issues right now because I'm not that flexible. And she was just lean, ripped, full of vitality. And I'm just like, I want to be that when I'm at that age. Like that's like an example. You don't see that around us. Like it's not part of our culture.
Yeah. And that's what I was about to say. It's a cultural thing too, because this woman has probably been preparing sweat lodges her whole life. And I always say to people, age doesn't steal anything from you. If you listen to people talk, they'll say, you know, I'm 50, so, you know, I just can't do that anymore. It has nothing to do with your age and everything to do with your patterns of living and movement patterns and your culture and the way that we show up every day, because it's very cliche, but it's true. No matter what way you look at it, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I get down into a low squat every fucking day.
Same.
Why?
Pound that.
Because when I'm 72 and I'm still able to do it, I never had to go through the hard work to regain my mobility to squat. I just straight up never stopped doing it.
Right.
If you don't stop moving, you will have it.
Yeah. You got to keep the range of all.
And so this woman has been bent over in a vulnerable, what most people would look at and go, whew, that's a vulnerable position for her lumbar spine to be in, with that added load, with that added stress of 40 pounds. Like, how the hell is she doing it? To her, that's like brushing her teeth every day. Yeah. She's done it every single day.
The body already knows.
Yeah.
The body already understands
putting
that
in that-
range of motion.
Absolutely. It
what
feels
takes.
safe there. It's used to
Exactly.
it. It's
Yeah. I have a grandma. She's my only grandparent still alive. And she's like well into her 80s. And my cousin just sent me a video of her teaching her grandkids how to split wood with an axe. She's chopping wood at like 85, like it's nothing. I'm like, who are you? Like
Yeah.
that can't be safe. But splitting logs like it's nothing. Teaching
we
the
just
younger
don't
generation.
stop
like, it's-
moving. And
She's always been like that though. She
Yeah.
always walked.
Yeah.
She never had a cart, just always walked everywhere. She used to walk us to and from school, just always walking. Like her calves are like bodybuilder calves. Like it's ridiculous. But she's always moving. I think it's just a different mentality. Also coming from like that background, Eastern European,
You have
just like
coming from a rural background too. Like
yeah, it's just you're used to a different type of lifestyle. But
Yeah.
here it's very sedentary.
it's
just-
sedentary. It's also very short term gains. Like everything is
Yeah.
about.
it's also very much like same planes of movement because
Yeah.
like, yes, there's one aspect that walking is underrated
yeah.
and there is so much that it can do for your health and potentially the best exercise that you can do is just to get out for a walk. But when we think about having functional mobility and be able to do these extreme ranges and extreme activities when we're in our later years in life, walking, squatting, even running, it's not enough because it's all in the same plane of movement. Let's take our hips, for example. Ball and socket joint, 360 degrees range of motion. It has multiple ways to move. When we walk, our hips are in the same sagittal plane. It's in the same range of motion, same field of movement, right? We're like, ooh, we're getting some activity. I'm feeling good. And you are. I don't want to take that away from you. But at the end of the day, we're not keeping our range of motion. And then people are like, oh, well, I don't understand why I've got an issue of my hips. I'm really active. I run every single day, or I squat every single day, or I deadlift every single day. At the end of the day, it's the same range of motion. We are not doing internal, external, adduction, abduction of our hips. And therefore, again, you don't use it, you lose it. What's the biggest range of motion that we lose as we age? It's hip internal rotation.
Yeah.
Because in our society, in our culture, what do we do that gets hip internal rotation unless you're doing mobility work and intentionally training it, right? So it's like, yes, I don't want to take that away that walking is so beneficial. Let's make walking cool again and let's make let's get
We'll start a walk club.
yeah, my friend Shannon was saying that and I'm like, I love it. Make walking cool again. Because she's right. And through the pandemic, I started walking a ton and it's one of the best things that you can do for yourself. But when we're thinking about aging and we're thinking about keeping our mobility, walking, running, squatting, deadlifting, it's not going to do it because everybody over the age of 65, what's the biggest thing that we see? Hip replacements. Why do we have a hip replacement? Lack of range of motion, degenerative changes. Biggest thing that we see is internal rotation. I can test somebody's hip and tell them basically whether or not they're a surgical referral for a hip replacement or not, because I test internal rotation.
Yeah.
That's the biggest factor.
That's turning your foot inwards. Was
out.
out.
Oh, like that.
Your
Okay.
hip. Yeah.
Really? So what would you do to work on that? Like what?
Do it.
Well,
Do your hip
just-
internal rotation.
Just doing this.
So-
just this. This
So
motion
that
right here?
so here we're in neutral, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get external rotation,
Yeah.
internal rotation.
Yeah. I can't.
Oh, yeah.
Even
not at all.
sitting on the couch like this, doing this, cool. You're at least using it, so we're not losing it.
Yeah,
but-
right. So I'm like, I'm
So
not think I'm
tight.
doing it right. It's not.
Yeah.
So how do you
By
work
doing
on that?
this,
Like, what
we're
would
at
you-
least using it, so therefore we're less likely to lose it. But if we want to talk about going the next step and improving our range of motion, that's when we're doing things like the 90-90. That
Oh, okay.
if
Yeah.
anybody has listened to me talk in the last 2 years, they're like, Emma, stop talking about the 90-90 because, and I'll tell my patients that if I had one exercise to do, if I could only do one exercise for the rest of my life, 90-90,
Yeah.
hands down, without a question, that is the one thing I would do because I know that's what will keep me mobile, up and down stairs, deep squat, keep my lower back healthy, decrease my risk of a hip replacement, like keep my knees functioning. Done. Hip 90-90. But that's a whole other story of how we can improve mobility rather than just maintain the mobility that we do have.
Amazing.
Okay, so we got these really cool stickers.
Okay,
on
I was
right
going to
now.
say, dude, we're going to have to do 2 podcasts
Yeah.
because we just talked forever about mobility and we didn't even get to
we
our
gotta
main-
talk about these cool stickers that we got on
Okay,
to show
reset.
the camera.
Yeah.
It says Newcom Pro 002. I don't know if the 002 is relevant, but we just did a Newcom session.
Mhm.
Maybe we can talk about what Newcom is, and and then we'll talk about our experiences. Or should we talk about our experience? I'll talk about my experience first. How about
Talking
that?
about it first?
Yeah, and then
Let's
you
do
can
it.
tell us what's going on underneath.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I would love.
So yeah, you put me in like a gravity chair or whatever it is. It's like a recliner. Put the sticker on, got the headphones, got the blindfold on. So totally basically sensory deprivation.
Yes.
And then the music starts playing in my ears. And I think like, I don't know how long it was in because you can't really tell time, but like I started to like lose like not feeling of my body, but kind of not understanding where my body was in space.
Yes.
Right. So at one point I felt like I was going to be upside down. I was like, oh my God, this chair's falling, but it wasn't falling. And then I felt like I was rocking forward. And then I felt like almost like I was asleep. Like I was like feeling like I was like regenerating. Like I was a very, very like restful kind of state. And yeah, like it was like you were saying, like the deepest kind of meditation that I've ever experienced. I'm not much of a meditator now, and I find it very hard to meditate, but that was like perfect for me at least, because I can't do it to save my life. The meditation.
That was an amazing explanation.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Ryan? What did you?
How was your experience?
So for me, it was good. Like I've done a couple of sound kind of therapy things similar to this, like sensory deprivation, and it was very similar to that, where it's like it's getting your, I don't know, it's like almost putting you like straight into your subconscious. Like it gets you out of your own head. Because like, again, meditating, if I'm just sitting on the floor with my eyes closed, forget about it. Like if I'm listening to the music, especially if there's like some sort of rhythm to it, like I'm vibing to the music, I'm thinking about things. I'm like, oh, this would be cool. Like, what instrument do they use there? Like I have a music production background. So I'm always like analyzing the sounds. So like even with this, for the first like 5-10 minutes, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm picking up on the rhythm here. I'm picking up this. It took a while for me to like fully like get into it.
Yeah.
But like around like, I'd say the 10-15 minute mark, I was kind of touch and go. Like you said, it was like I was almost slipping into that like, whoa, where am I? Hold on, I'm here. And then like colors started appearing and started like really feeling, like a disassociation from my body.
Yeah.
Like I was on the floor, which is a hard surface, but I didn't feel like I was on the floor. Like I was just like, I couldn't feel like my extremities, if that makes sense. I was just so like almost like floating, like just like
exactly
existing, but like in here, not in my physical.
Yeah. You saw visuals.
Yeah. So I started seeing colors around, I'd say, roughly like 5 minutes before. Yeah. Like towards the end is when it started coming in. And the colors specifically it started with like kind of like a white ambient light and then turned into more of like an indigo purple light. And then, so like I was just like starting to go there and like seeing like kind of patterns starting to form. And it was very interesting. Very, very interesting to see. Because I
love this. You guys crushed that explanation. I was like, yep. Okay. So you guys did a 20-minute Newcom session. Newcom is a way to biohack your body into a deep state of meditation that you would never be able to get to on your own. This is like monk level meditation. And so what Newcom is, it is a neuroanatomy, a neuroscience company that has created over 30 years of research, these neuroacoustics. And so the way that Newcom works is it drops your body into theta brainwaves. And so as you guys both kind of touched on, you felt your body slowly start to wash away.
Yeah.
Your arms start to get heavy and you start to lose track of time and space and you start to not have the most association with your body. It's like, okay, I know that I have arms, but I'm not sure where they are right now. And if I had an itch on my nose, I'm not sure that I would lift my arm to scratch it. Like I'm just floating in the abyss right now. And so that is you in your theta state, your theta brainwaves. So the way that your brain works is your brain functions in a way where you have, well, let me dial it back a bit. We'll say this first. Your brain is always firing and functioning on
Brainwave.
on wavelengths
Okay.
that are objectively measurable.
Yeah.
All of your thoughts when you were thinking about, oh, I have a background in music production and I can hear, you're more in like your beta brainwaves, you're thinking, you're aware, you're hyper focused. And then we slowly drop down into our thetas because of the music that you're listening to. So your brain works in a way that it has entrainment. It wants to match and synchronize sounds
Nice.
and sound wavelengths around you, which is why sound healing is so powerful. It can alter your brain waves. However, your brain is, I don't know, arguably the most complex, dynamic, like technology system out there, right? It is so complex. And so it doesn't like to be tricked. Your brain does not want to be tricked. It wants to stay safe. It wants to keep you safe. Your nervous system wants to keep you safe. So it's tricky to trick your brain. So that is part of the journey of Newcom, is that it is going to slowly take your brain from this like awareness slowly down into your like alpha, where you were kind of like, oh, I'm kind of here, I'm kind of not, I'm kind of relaxed, but I'm still consciously aware. And then all of a sudden you're just like, whoop, and I'm gone. And then so there's a slow process to bring your brain waves down into the theta. But the way that Newcom works essentially is that it will alter your nervous system into your parasympathetics, so your relaxation state, and then your brain waves into theta. And we know through research that it does this every single time. And it is always going to be predictable, and it's always going to be impactful, which is why the Newcom started out as like a grade 3 medical device that was like $6,000 USD. Hard to get your hands on and incredibly beneficial. We see the US military use it. So this was actually created by a neuroscientist named Blake Holloway. And he spent, I think in the 1990s, started doing the research on this. And it's originated for helping people with PTSD and anxiety. And because of the way that it works, again, your nervous system controls everything. So if we now have a piece of technology that is going to always alter your nervous system and your brainwave, you have the potential to help heal anything. So we see now in like the modern world in today's day and age, Newcom being used for cancer patients all over the world. We see Newcom being used by the US military, PTSD and anxiety, professional athletes, right? For concussion recovery, for your brain, right? For performance, for people like yourself that struggle with meditation.
Yeah.
Cool. Instead of, even if you're great at meditation,
well, this will level it up.
Fuck, why do I want to like put in work to meditate? I'll just put on the Newcom, and within like 10 minutes, I'm in a deeper state than I would ever be able to get to on my own.
Interesting.
And the really cool thing about Newcom too is that we have to understand the workings that is that's happening in the body when you're in this state. So what people don't realize is that for your body to heal, your body needs to be in a very specific state to actually heal on a cellular level. And that state being in your theta brainwaves. You and I and humans in the modern world are only ever going to be in your theta brainwaves when you are asleep, and only for a short period of time. So we have a technology that drops us into that state for, I don't know, we could go 60 minutes if our bodies needed that.
Yeah.
Right? Which is huge, because in theta, it's the only time that your body recovers on a cellular level. In theta brainwaves, when you're on the Newcom, your cells are ridding the toxins that no longer serve them. It's taking these sluggish cells and regenerating them. It's increasing cellular ATP. On a cellular level, ATP is your body's energy, right?
Yeah.
When you're on the Newcom, you're because of the state that you're in, the theta, the parasympathetics, your breath slows down. You're increasing oxygen to the cells, healing them as well, right? So we are able to take somebody and drop them into this state of healing, of optimal healing for an extended period of time, which there is no other technology in the world that has been proven to do what NuCalm does. It's the only patented technology in the world to do this.
Yeah.
And so for me, the literature shows that 98% of all disease is correlated to stress.
Yeah.
Well, what does stress do on a physiological level to the body? It damages our cells, and it creates cells that are confused, sluggish, sloppy. We stop functioning optimally. Sluggish cells create disease. We don't know what disease, but it will create, again, we don't see it immediately. This is when we're 70. It's again, people don't necessarily see the benefits immediately after NuCalm. It's an investment into your future. You do see a benefit for sure. You guys had wild experiences on 20 minutes. Imagine a 60-minute journey. But the big benefit, again, the reason why I do this is for the investment into my future. Because every time I'm on the NuCalm, I am healing my body on a cellular level, and I am actively decreasing the risk of creating disease in my body.
Yeah.
Most people, we live in a world that people are stressed all the time. On whether they're consciously aware of it, stress shows up in the body in so many different ways. Digestive issues, like it's not just this like emotion of stress. It manifests in so many ways.
Everything
Aches and pain.
stresses the body.
Everything stresses the body. And there is good stress, and stress is a whole other podcast episode, but there is good stress to have in the body, and it's beneficial and it's useful and it helps us keep us alive. And there's a primitive role in that. But at the end of the day, and then because of the stress, we have increased cortisol levels. And because of these stress levels and increased cortisol levels, we can't sleep well. We have adrenally exhausted our bodies and then created adrenal fatigue again, which then prevents people from sleeping well. If you have adrenal fatigue, most people are waking up at 3:00 in the morning, can't fall asleep. It's because your adrenals are depleted, and it's a hormonal pattern and function. But at the end of the day, we all live in a world that we're all really stressed out and therefore not sleeping well, which then stresses our body even more. And we get stuck in this cycle that is so, so hard to break. And we have this device, neuroacoustic, neuroscience research and company that has created something that can literally biohack your body into a deep state of healing and a deep state of meditation, which to me, there is literally nothing more powerful.
So when you sleep, how much recovery time, like how, I guess, what does the literature show about like how long you're actually in that theta brainwave state? Because you recover when you sleep, right? Everyone knows that when you work out, it's like, oh, you just need to sleep to rebuild and get back stronger. But how much time are you actually in that brain state when you're sleeping versus the NuCalm? Like, what is 60 minutes on the NuCalm equate to sleep time or deep recovery time versus just natural sleep?
So very individual and very subjective of or just individualized, and so many different factors play a role in that, and how much time you're getting in this like deep sleep and recovery when you're sleeping. Alcohol, caffeine will alter that. I don't know. I don't have a one solid answer for you. Is that, most people on average get 70 minutes when they're sleeping, because there's so many different factors that play a role in that, right? But what we do know, and what I can give you, is that there's been studies done on the NuCalm that show 20 minutes. So the session that you guys did today is equivalent to your body in terms of healing as 2 hours of deep restful sleep. So not just sleep, deep restorative healing sleep.
Okay.
20 minutes.
Yeah, I can see that.
Equivalent to 2 hours.
So 60 minutes, 6 hours.
You could take that as the research doesn't, the research doesn't have that exactly, but you could. Yeah.
So interesting. So
theoretically say, sure.
Interesting. And you mentioned high performing athletes use this, and a lot of people. So would this benefit just is where I go with it, because I know a lot of my friends are having kids now and they're all sleep deprived and whatever. Would this benefit people in that state, like new mothers and fathers who are constantly up, not getting the actual rest they need? Would this like help them recover and get that rest without actually getting a full 8 hours? You know what I mean? Just a quick 60 minutes.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Who is more stressed and sleep deprived than a new mom?
Yeah.
Right.
Or than any mom, really.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that it's like, my answer is like, yes, 100%. Absolutely. There's not a single
Right.
person that you could bring to me that I would say, the new com won't help you. It will.
Interesting.
Every single person. Because every single person's cells need to flush out toxins and recover and increase ATP.
Mhm.
Unless you are a monk that spends all day in meditation.
Which none of us are.
Yeah. Right.
And I think Newcom's actually done research with monks.
Yeah, I was going to ask you
Mm.
about that. If they have.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it helped. They were helping monks get into a deeper state
Yeah.
of meditation.
Which is,
So even the monks
yeah.
need the Newcom.
Right.
So every person that you and I know would 100%, without a doubt, objectively and evidence-based, benefit from the Newcom. This would heal anybody that we know that has a brain and a body, especially
Yeah.
new moms.
Interesting.
So I use it in my personal life as a wellness practice.
Mhm.
For me, if I need to use it as a sleep aid, I don't think that it should I'm not going to say, you know what? I don't need to sleep because I got the Newcom and I'm
Yeah,
just not
no.
going to sleep and I'm going to power all through the night and I'm just going to Newcom the next day and da 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 da. No, but it helps me when I don't have a great sleep. It's like a supplement
Right.
that helps me so I can be more cognitively alert in my day and aware and awake, and my body's just functioning on a higher level than it would be without it.
So this is like a proven like power nap, like it, you know,
I mean, it's
tried and tested. Like if
It's a
you
hack.
right,
The
'cause-
session I put you guys on today, that's what they actually call it, is the power nap.
right.
Yeah.
Well, because it makes sense. Because normally, if you take a power nap or whatever, if you go past like 30 minutes, you wake up groggy and
Yeah.
like that was a mistake. I shouldn't
Yeah.
have went to sleep because you wake up more tired. But this, I feel like I'd be curious to actually test it and see if you can prolong the amount of time you are awake and just use this as like, because there's polyphasic sleep cycles and people do that where they only sleep for 4 hours a day,
Tony Robbins.
right?
Tony Robbins uses the Newcom. He sleeps 4 hours a day and he Newcoms every single day.
Okay, so
he
that's-
has less sleep so he can be more functional
And
and
that's my
optimal and
question.
go.
Yeah.
Is it studied in that sense? And also you're saying it helps regenerate the cells and do all that thing. When you fast, your body's going into autophagy after 18 hours and your body is doing that already. So would this amplify the effects of that?
Sure.
Is there,
I don't
I'm
know.
curious
I don't
to
have a
know.
study to pull out of my
Yeah.
back pocket for you, but what we know, and theoretically, like absolutely, it would just intensify your body's ability to recover, because your body is now, when you're fasting, it has less things to do.
Right. So you're able to focus. Like, for example, I was on vacation with Autumn not long ago. She got a flu. I was like, on the first sign
Like,
of like a
see ya.
scratchy throat, I was like, I'm going to start fasting. I did a 30, it was like around 36, 40 hours. And that's it. My body had nothing else to focus on but my immune system.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fine. I didn't get whatever she got. She was out for almost 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I was good. I was like, oh, something to this, right?
You are the stronger partner.
But it's like,
Autumn,
I
we love
know
you.
that's what, when you're eating, when you're doing other things, your body has other things to focus on. So like, I'm curious to see how much of an effect this would have if you're fasting, if you're using this.
Do it.
Well, so
Do a fast and do a Newcom session.
you said it's a medical device. So how do people go about getting this treatment or
Yeah.
like
How can they
making this
access
part of
this?
their daily practice or weekly practice, whatever it is? Like, you're a licensed practitioner. It's a medical device. Do you have to be a licensed practitioner to use this or get your hands on it? Do they have to come and see you? Or is it
Yeah,
available
good
to
question.
everybody?
So shout out to Jim Poole. He is the, I don't know, the founder, the owner of the business Life Solstice that owns the product of Newcom. And he is actually like Jim Poole, I love you. As a business owner, he's legit. And he is heart-centered in the way he runs his business. If you were to ask me, I think Jim Poole, because of Blake Holloway, the inventor of the research and the science, the neuroscientist Blake Holloway, because of his invention, Jim Poole has his hands on, I would argue, the most powerful technology or device on planet Earth at this moment. There's nothing else that is proven to do what Newcom can do. And again, you're altering your brain, your nervous system, your brain waves into an optimal state of healing that nothing else can get you to that state other than Newcom. And so I've had the Newcom, I don't know what, maybe 4 years now. And originally it was a medical device. You had to be a licensed practitioner, I believe, to have it. I use it in my practice to this day. Patients come to see me for Newcom. But at the end of the day, their goal and their mission is to heal the world, essentially, right? And by limiting it to be available to only practitioners limits its accessibility. Having it as a $6,000 USD device also limits it to a lot of people. And so what they've done is through years of, I don't know, Jim Poole, we need you on here, trial and error, all the different things, they've made it very accessible. So just in this last year, they released Newcom so that it is a consumer product, easily and accessible. So really at the end of the day, it is an app that you can download. And they would probably be annoyed that I'm just saying it's like an app that you can download with neuroacoustics, because it's like one soundtrack has been like studied and researched for like a decade and then takes like 6 months to create. And so it's like heavy, big files. I don't know anything in that tech world. So to me, I'm like, it's an app, you know?
Right. No,
at the end of the day, it's an app on your phone that you can now have access to. You guys have a sticky pad. That's like the biochemical way of help. It's a meridian point to your pericardium, slowing your heart rate, slowing everything down in your body to help you get into that deep state of healing and meditation. So there's the two parts. These stickies are like $5 each. They're one-time use. They're maybe, let's say, 15% of the efficacy of Newcom in and of itself. But as a consumer, if you have noise canceling headphones, and you have an eye mask to block out visual distractions, and you just listen to the music in the app, you're golden. They'll say that if you add the stickies, that it makes it more of like a clinical experience and a clinical grade. But again, coming back to that Jim Poole has really made this as accessible to humans as possible into every day. So you can I bought the Newcom for $6,000 USD forever ago, and it is now available to buy individual tracks at like $15 a month.
Oh, wow.
And then if you want another track, you can buy another track and increase. But it is so affordable and so accessible now. It's insane to me.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The fact everybody needs to have this.
Different tracks for different healing modalities or different things you're trying to work on. Like how does that work?
So they've expanded. So the original Newcom is really just getting you into that theta state for healing. And that is what the basis of Newcom is. And so if you were to just buy Newcom, you're going to want to be on the program, I think is called Rescue, or the 20-minute power nap, to help you get into that state so that your cells can regenerate, recover, become optimal, increase ATP, all that stuff, increase oxygen, basically help your body recover from the years of stress that it's been holding on to. It also connects, again, this is like neuroscience that I've dipped my toes in, but not my area of expertise. It also targets your limbic system. Again, as a chiro, we have a ton of neuroanatomy education, but I wouldn't say it's my area of expertise. But it taps into your limbic system, and your limbic system holds on to like emotions and memories. And so it also helps you process stuck emotions and stuck memories and traumatic events, which is why it's so helpful for people with PTSD and anxiety. Because when we have these traumatic events that get kind of stuck in the brain, it helps your limbic system process and release. But I got sidetracked.
No, that was it. I was just questions on like the different tracks. Right? So like, because I assume it's different frequencies, just like with red light therapy. Different frequencies attack different parts of the cellular structure, and there's different, ranges you want to use if you're trying to heal different things.
Yeah.
So I assume it's the same thing.
There are different tracks. Okay. There's tracks to sort of like upregulate your system, just kind of like breath work. You can upregulate, downregulate. There's different tracks, but if you just get Newcom, the first thing that you want to do is spend the first however many times you do Newcom doing the recovery sessions to rid your body of the stress and help you recover first. And then you can dabble into the different options. But there are different frequencies and different options on the Newcom now that they've released over the years.
Amazing. And you mentioned after we did our session that the optimal time is to do it between like noon and 4 when your body goes into that natural lull, that natural dip.
Yeah.
To kind of regenerate.
So because it is like a power nap to your body, when we first wake up, we don't necessarily need a power nap. Yeah. It's going to help. It's going to be healing for your body. But is it the ideal optimal time to do it? Maybe not. Whereas your body naturally falls into this like dip where we oftentimes recognize is like, oh, I'm feeling sluggish and slow and sleepy and I want that second cup of coffee. That's the time to do Newcom. That's the ultimate time. It's like that power nap for your day that you're like, boom, you did a 20-minute Newcom and now you're going to go crush another 4 hours of high level thinking and working, right? You also, because it's a power nap, you don't want to power nap 2 hours before you want to fall asleep, right? There's no point in taking a power nap and then be like, okay, go sleep now. You're probably going to be awake in your bed. If your body needs more time, so let's say we did 20 minutes for you guys and you came out of the Newcom and you're like, oh my God, I still feel like I'm half asleep. I feel like I got woken up when I was in the middle of a REM cycle and I feel half asleep still and super like, just, that feeling, right? That means that your body wasn't done and it needs more time on the Newcom. So optimally, what I would love to do is, and if we weren't on a time constraint, for me, I book appointments. So with that, we need to have a window and we need to have schedule and we need to have timing. And same with you guys today. What I would love to do is set you up on a Newcom on the rescue session and just let you go. And when your body naturally comes back out of the theta, it's like, okay, we've healed. We're actually good. And so you naturally come out of it. And when you naturally come out of it, that's the optimal. If you were on it for 52 minutes, then hey, you had a lot of restoring to do in your body today. If you were on it for 20 minutes, you're like, okay, my body's in a pretty good spot today. And based on the different factors and variables in your life, you're going to need the Newcom for different lengths of time. So the idea is optimally to not have a time limit to it and set it to go and let your body do its natural thing to come in and out of it naturally.
Awesome.
Love that.
All right. The show's called Nature's Underrated. We ask all our guests.
This is the longest podcast ever. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize.
No, for what?
Not at all. This is a fire conversation. Yeah. It's great. A lot of
show's
value.
Called Nature's Underrated. We ask all our guests this same question. What element of nature do you feel like is the most underrated?
What element of nature?
Yeah. What part of nature? Yeah. I know. It's a big question.
I should have thought this one through before I came on.
Better.
I am just going to say that the part of nature that is most underrated is the human body. We are nature. We're not a part of nature. We are it. Yeah. I mean, you guys are cool and all, but I create life.
Yeah.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah.
And I think that we look at humans as being these beings that live in nature and that we're not actually nature ourselves.
Yeah. That's a good answer.
Does that answer it?
Yeah, that's a good answer.
That's fantastic.
That's a good answer. That's
whip that one right off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
Believe.
Yeah, right. And then follow-up question, is there any part of nature that has in any way impacted your journey this far?
Every day. Every breath of air I take, every time I put my feet on the grass, I'm getting that grounding. I'm getting that feedback. I'm changing electrons with every tree I get close to. Your body is always shifting. And you remember in like basic science class, you've got like those little electrons flying around and they jump.
Yeah.
Right? We're changing electrons with the things around us. So we can either choose to be interchanging those electrons with man-made things or with nature. What do we think has a higher vibrational healing component to it? So every time I put my feet on the grass, every time I'm outside breathing fresh air in around trees, touching nature, I am interchanging parts of myself with it, which help me be me and vibrate at the level that I'm at and heal my body and show up as who I am. Did that answer your question? What was the question?
Awesome. No, that answered the question.
Yeah, that was.
You did an awesome job.
Yeah.
And I think with that, we can wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for letting me talk.
And for everyone listening, thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment, share, do all the things. And we'll see you guys next week. Peace out.
Peace.